Matt Patricia can't rescue Eagles defense in third straight loss. Matt Patricia was handed the controls of the defense this week, with the Philadelphia Eagles sending defensive coordinator Sean Desai to the coach's booth and stripping him of calling the defensive plays. It didn't help the slumping Philadelphia Eagles. Patricia's defense crashed when it mattered most. The Seattle Seahawks were down by 4 points with 1:52 to play in Monday night's game and sitting at their 8-yard line. 10 plays and 92 yards later, the Seahawks took their first lead when rookie receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba zipped past veteran cornerback James Bradberry for a 29-yard touchdown with 28 seconds to play. That touchdown stood up in a 20-17 win by the Seahawks, which ended their 4-game losing streak with a backup quarterback in Drew Lock. After getting blown out the last 2 weeks, this one will hurt because of the way they lost, especially with a veteran like Bradberry getting beaten like that. It's been that kind of season for him. He just doesn't resemble the player he was last year when he was second-team All-Pro. Bradberry surrendering a touchdown to a rookie and a backup had nothing to do with Patricia, though he did call for one-on-one coverage. Still, a veteran like Bradberry simply cannot get beaten over the top by a rookie. He wasn't really in the vicinity of Smith-Njigba. Was it Patricia's fault that the Eagles still can't stop the run? They did a nice job of it in the first half, but Kenneth Walker shook loose in the second half and had 86 yards on 19 carries. Was it Patricia's fault that the Eagles still have trouble sacking the quarterback? They had 2, with Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham sharing 1 and rookie Jalen Carter notching his 5th. When it mattered most, with the defense needing to make a play to stop the Seahawks from driving 92 yards to win their first game in a month, it didn't happen. At some point, the players have to take their share of the blame. And so does head coach Nick Sirianni. Sirianni said the decision to hand Patricia the play-calling duties was all his idea, and it was made midweek when game planning began, even though the Eagles didn't release the information to the national media until Sunday. He called it a tough decision, but it will be a collaborative effort going forward with Patricia having the final say. More tough decisions wait for the head coach. The Eagles have lost 3 in a row. They hadn't lost 3 games under Sirianni since his early days as the team's head coach. Now, they have, and they have all come in December when the games matter most. Now at 10-4, the Eagles are in danger of losing their grip on the number 2 seed and having to go on the road to open the playoffs. The top seed in the NFC playoffs is all but gone now. The San Francisco 49ers would have to lose twice and Philly would have to win out for that to happen. Not likely. Sirianni is in charge of this team, especially the offense. Brian Johnson gets lambasted for his play calling, but the head coach has a big hand in that. 2. It's an offense that has gone 3 straight weeks without cresting 20 points. Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts was downgraded to questionable a day before the game. He was ill enough that he had to fly west by himself, without his teammates, so, yeah, let's let him run the ball 13 times. Hurts threw 2 more interceptions, both of them in the fourth quarter. He has 12 of those this season and has turned the ball over 17 times when his lost fumbles are factored in. Hurts also rushed for a pair of 1-yard touchdowns and has 14 of those, which is a new career high and tied Cam Newton's single-season record set in Newton's rookie year in 2011. Stats like that mean nothing for the Eagles, who had Hurts throw the ball deep to Quez Watkins despite picking up 2 first downs to get to Seattle's 45 with 8:08 to go in the final quarter. Watkins was held and a pass interference should have been called. It wasn't, and Julian Love intercepted the ball, one of his 2 key picks. The defense forced a 3 and out. The offense couldn't run out the clock, punting it back from midfield with 1:52 to play. That's when the crash came, and there may be more of those over these final 3 games. 2 against the Giants with the first game on Christmas Day and the Arizona Cardinals sandwiched between those 2 against New York. Eagles Jalen Hurts gets massive Drew Lock trolling after loss to Seahawks. The Philadelphia Eagles appeared hellbent on righting the ship during their Week 15 matchup against the Seattle Seahawks after they suffered their worst defeat of the 2023 season in Week 14 against the Dallas Cowboys. And the Eagles, on paper, looked like they had a huge advantage in the quarterback department against the Seahawks, with the MVP-caliber Jalen Hurts taking on Drew Lock, who's only filling in as the Seahawks starter amid Geno Smith's injury. Lock didn't exactly have a good game in his first start of the season during Week 14 in a 28-16 loss to the San Francisco 49ers. But the 27-year-old QB unexpectedly outplayed Eagles star Jalen Hurts on Monday night. In addition to completing a much better percentage of his passes, Lock completed 67% of his 33 attempts compared to 55% for Hurts on 31, and a better yard total. 208 versus 143. The Seahawks QB also threw the game-winning touchdown to Jackson Smith-Njigba. Simply put, Jalen Hurts didn't look right on Monday in what ended up being a 20-17 loss to the Seahawks. Just to rub even more salt on the wound, the Eagles QB threw 2 interceptions without completing a single touchdown pass. And with the playoffs approaching, the NFL community on Twitter, X, clowned Hurts for what was a terrible performance, especially in comparison to Drew Lock's. Jalen Hurts losing to Drew Lock is like Michael Jordan losing to Joe Smith. Oh my goodness, this is the craziest thing I ever witnessed in football. One fan resorted to hyperbole. Jalen Hurts is even receiving overrated criticisms from fans who clearly aren't liking what they're seeing from the Eagles QB as of late. All you need to know about Jalen Hurts being overrated is that when Drew Lock and Zach Wilson played him, they both outplayed him, one fan wrote. Another, losing to Drew Lock is rock bottom for Jalen Hurts Eagles. What AF * king disgrace. I will never get over this loss. Some fans are now wondering whether that one analyst who said that the Eagles should consider starting Marcus Mariota over Jalen Hurts was onto something. Maybe that analyst was right about benching Jalen Hurts for Marcus Mariota, the fan expressed. The Eagles will be hoping that Jalen Hurts rights the ship soon, especially if they were to make good on their ambition of winning the Super Bowl. Eagles Nick Sirianni bluntly shoots down potential coaching move after loss to Seahawks. The worst time to go into a slump in professional sports, aside from doing so in the playoffs itself, is when the postseason is approaching. The Philadelphia Eagles, after a stellar 10-2 start to their 2023 NFL season, have now lost 2 straight games in infuriating fashion. In Week 14, they were on the receiving end of a blowout loss against the Dallas Cowboys, and now, in Week 15, the Eagles were in disarray on offense all night long, opening up the door for the Seattle Seahawks to steal the game in the fourth quarter thanks to a clutch catch from Jackson Smith-Njigba. There is still time for the Eagles, of course, to right the ship before the playoffs begin. But it's becoming increasingly clear over the past 2 weeks that head coach Nick Sirianni and company will have to approach things differently moving forward, beginning with their Week 16 matchup against the New York Giants. Approaching things differently could entail bringing in a fresh pair of eyes to oversee an Eagles offense that's in disarray. Nevertheless, Sirianni, following Philadelphia's 20-17 loss to the Seahawks on Monday night, declared that he wouldn't be making other hasty decisions in terms of personnel, according to Chris Franklin of NJ.com. The Eagles, as one would recall, made an out-of-left-field switch to their coaching roles prior to their clash against the Seahawks. After a dispiriting defensive performance against the Cowboys in Week 14, Nick Sirianni and company opted to elevate Matt Patricia into a bigger defensive role, taking over play-calling duties on that end of the field from Sean Desai. Nonetheless, it's looking like what the Eagles need to do is figure out some changes to let their offense breathe a little more. Among teams with 10-plus wins on the season, Philadelphia has the worst point total for the season, and they don't exactly have the best defense in the league to compensate. Now, Jalen Hurts and the rest of the Eagles' offensive players must perform better. But don't be too surprised if the Eagles, heading into next week's game against the Giants, seek the aid of another decision-maker to aid the team's scoring attack.